Hello everyone, this hour on Verbling, the next in my, not great short stories, I keep saying this, wrong class, the next in my Getting Results in Business series, we are working on our very last class in this unit of Getting Results in Business. We're working on how to deal with business culture. And what we're going to try to do today is take everything we've learned and apply it to a real-life business problem. We're going to try to solve the business problem using what we've learned in previous classes. Key words, key phrases, and how to talk about a past event, how to narrate it. Put all those skills together in just a moment. Before we do that, here's a little bit about me. Eric, your Verbling teacher for this hour. I'm an American teacher from New York, hanging out in Lisbon, Portugal to bring you this class. By the way, here are 3 quick rules to help you participate in my class. Don't forget to turn off, tune in, and open up. That means when you're not speaking, turn off your microphone so we can keep the classroom nice and quiet. When you are speaking, I want you to tune in to the new words. That means use them as actively as you can so that I can correct you and give you feedback. Finally, open up to your classmates. Relax and have fun. We're all here to learn, and this is a safe and respectful place to practice your English. And that is a little bit about me. Let's see how you are. Hello, you, all of you. Welcome back, Bruce, Daniel, Sylvia. And
Thank you.
I'm going to put our material on the screen, and I will put also, there we go, I'll put this in the chat window as well. Oh, I lost the link. Give me a second, I'll put the link there for you. So, we're going to go to the 4th presentation in our series, the last one, where we deal with a business problem. In just a second. Let me give you the link first. Hold on a second. First, I'll put it in the group chat. You got it there if you want to open the material. And I'll also put it in our Verbling chat, which is not working at the moment, but I can go there. Okay. All of our material is on page 6 for this unit, so let's go right down there to page 6. And I will open the 4th presentation and let it load. I will also open the homework that I gave you if you if you have any questions about it. And let's do a little summary. In the last class, what did we do? Well, let me make this a little bigger for you. There we go. In the last class, we used key phrases to talk about a cultural activity, a film, a book, something that you've read before, something you've read or watched. And we use those key phrases to talk about this cultural thing. We also did a review of the tenses, the verb tenses, to talk about a past event. We call these narrative tenses. The narrative tenses are the past simple, the past continuous, the past perfect. So what? Why is that important? Well, you should now, after yesterday's class, by the way, if you weren't in yesterday's class, don't worry. I'll help you catch up. So, after yesterday's class and today's class, you should understand there are 3 ways to narrate the past. You can give a background or context using the past continuous. You can talk about the main events, the main actions with the past simple. And you can talk about actions before another action. You can interrupt actions with the past perfect. So this was a great way to get the general idea of how to talk about the past, like a native speaker. How to use 3 verb tenses to talk about it in a sophisticated way. Now what? Now that you know that, what can you do? Well, first, try homework 3. We will take a look at it in a minute. Next, I suggested that you write the events that we looked at in class yesterday in presentation 3. And I will put that on the screen as well so we can take a look. It would be good practice for you to take that story we read. When we put it back into order, we just had the key ideas. So it would be a great exercise to take those key ideas and write it as a story again. And so that slide, I think it was on slide 11 or 10, I think it was on 10, is here. Yesterday, hey, someone already did it. Excellent. So yesterday we put these events in order, and I said using the verb tenses, try to write it out. So Ishmael, can we take a look at yours as an example? Is that okay?
Yes.
Let's do it.
I try to write the story again, John.
Excellent. Can I use it as an example in the class? Is it okay?
Of course.
All right. So let me put it on screen first. And what I'm going to ask the rest of you to do is to give Ishmael some suggestions if you think that the verb tenses could be used differently. So let's do this quickly together. It's a good example. And the rest of you, if you send me yours, I can correct them and send them back. But let's take a look. Can you see? Does that work? Okay, good. You can see it. Let me move this down a little bit. You know what? Sorry, there's some other text there. Just ignore it. Sorry about that. Can I have you read this, Ishmael?
Yes.
Go for it.
When the billionaires were setting off down the motorway, their car had a flat tire. The chauffeur got off and opened the trunk, but there was no toolkit. There had been not enough space in the trunk for luggages, and he had to left the toolkit behind. The chauffeur realized he couldn't change the wheel. When he looked around for help, a motorist stopped beside them to help.
Hello?
The chauffeur and the motorist changed the wheel together. After that, the billionaire spoke to the man and asked, "Is there anything which I can do for you?" The motorist asked, "A bouquet of flowers for your wife." For his wife.
For his wife.
Next day, some flowers were arrived at home of the motorist, and the mortgage was paid off by billionaire.
Okay, very good. And it's very clear, by the way. By the way, let me just say a quick hello to Diego. I heard you come in. Are you there, Diego?
Yes, I heard you.
Okay, good. So, Diego, yesterday we learned about, we're talking about culture, business culture, and how we can talk about culture socially when we're doing business, particularly when we're taking a break or socializing. So what we had to do was to focus on how to talk about anecdotes and past events. So what we're going to do is just correct one example from Ishmael where we had an exercise. So if you weren't in class, you wouldn't have seen this. We're going to take his example and correct it together. And it's a very good example, by the way. And then we're going to move on to solving a business problem together, a cultural problem. So that's the plan. And let me go back here for a second, Ishmael. I want to give you a better copy of this. So what I'm going to do is open a doc on Google, because right now it's in a text document. If you just give me a second. And then I'm going to ask the class, all of us together, if we can make a few corrections. By the way, it's almost perfect, Ishmael. Almost perfect. There's a few things we should change, but it's very clear, and the use of the tenses is exactly what we talked about yesterday. So that part is very good. Let me just create a new document so that I can send this to you in an easy way. Give me a second to go here. Create document. And I'll paste this and we'll get started. Give me a second for this to load. And is it loading? I hope so. It takes forever. Okay, there we go. Okay, so class, did he use the verb tenses correctly? Generally? Class, I'm talking to all of you. Hello? Everyone? Hello? Sylvia? Daniel? Shadow? Shadow isn't sure.
Generally, it's okay.
It is. It's very good, actually. The
Yes.
verb tenses are right. And Shadow, you weren't here, so let me fill you in. Bruce, did he
Yeah.
give us a background or context with the past continuous? Did he?
Yes.
Where? You're right. Where?
Was
Was what? What's the
when
past
the billionaire
continuous?
was sitting.
We're setting.
Were setting.
Yes.
Were setting. Okay? You're absolutely right. So the first sentence, Ishmael was absolutely right. That's our background. Background. That's what happened to set the story in motion. That's the information we need to know. Okay, so that's the background. Another thing we talked about was the main events in the past simple.
Can I ask a question, teacher?
You can ask many questions, student. Student.
Okay, John. The first sentence here, when the billionaire were sitting up. I
A
studied
little
that.
problem there. Yeah, a little problem.
Okay. It's while, huh?
While or when are okay, but the problem was, I think, Daniel, you were correcting this, wasn't it? You were trying to
Was.
say, yeah,
But I mean, continuous always come after while when it's used with the past simple, not past continuous.
Does the continuous always come after while? That's the question, right?
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I don't really think about it like that, but you're probably right. I've heard other people say that rule, but I guess when I go there, because if I say it in another context, I would change the tense. That's why I don't like to create general rules like that. Does it always go after a while? In the context of telling a story, yes. Here he's telling a story, so yes. Because it's happening at the same time as something else. So yes, it can.
Okay.
But in another context it won't. Only when you're telling a story. So while they were setting off, when they were setting off, while they set off, while they were setting off. I think what you want to say is while seems more appropriate than when.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say this. You're right, but a native speaker would say one or the other, I think. I would say when the billionaire was setting off, while the billionaire was setting off. Well, I'll change it because it does sound better. So I think you're right. It sounds better. And what I'm going to do is make the changes down here, and then later, Ishmael, you can compare the before and after. Okay?
Okay.
Does Ishmael use the past simple to talk about the main events? Class, yes or no? Does he use the past simple to talk about the main events of the story? If so, give me an example. Does he? Sylvia, does he?
Sir?
Does he use the past simple to talk about
Yes.
the main events?
Yes, the chauffeur and the motorist change the wheel together.
Change the wheel together. Okay, good. So here, main events in the past simple. So that again, very good. Okay, And the other thing we had to look for was actions interrupted using the past perfect. Does he interrupt actions using the past perfect in his story? Class, can you find an example, or does he not do it? Remember, past perfect is, what's the form of the past perfect, class?
It's had, then past participle.
Exactly. So if the verb was to go, it would be had what?
Had gone.
Exactly. If the verb was to be, it would be had been.
Yeah. Mm.
I heard someone say it. Okay. Is there a past perfect here? Anywhere?
Yes. There
Where?
had been not enough space in the trunk.
There had been not enough space in the trunk. I got it. Here. And that is our example. Now, is he interrupting the action? Kind of. Yeah, I think he is. So let's call this interruption. Interruption of the story. Go backwards. There had not been enough space in the trunk for the luggage. He had to left the toolkit behind. So he does what we asked him to do. Use all three ways of narrating the past. So that is perfect. Now, are there any problems? Yeah, there's a few changes we can make. So here's a change we need to make. Here's a change we need to make. This was a change we needed to make. Okay, let me hear you give me your suggestions. I gave you a few of mine. You tell me what changes, what those sentences should sound like. Nobody? Really?
What said?
Let's help him correct this.
What said? Oh.
Okay, so in the black text down here, we change when to while because it does sound a little bit better. She's right. Was setting off because billionaire is singular, not plural. The billionaire was setting off down the motorway. Is it there?
There, yeah.
What should it be?
His car.
Excellent. His car had a flat. The chauffeur got off and opened the trunk. Did he got off? The chauffeur? Did he got off? The chauffeur got not off, but
Get out.
out is right. It's better to say got out. You get off a plane, but you get out of a car. So the chauffeur got out, opened the trunk, but there was no toolkit. There had not been enough space. There had not been enough space in the trunk for luggages. Uh-oh.
Luggage.
Luggage singular is right.
John, excuse me.
Yes, go ahead.
So there was no the toolkit. I think it's not appropriate here.
But there was no the toolkit. Yes, you're right. We have to get rid of the. There was no toolkit. Sorry. That's it. Okay. And there had not been enough space in this trunk for luggage, and he had to left. Uh-oh, not left.
Leave.
He had to leave. Had to leave the toolkit behind. The chauffeur realized, spelled like this, he couldn't change the wheel. When he looked around for a help, not a help, just help. He looked around for help. A motorist stopped beside them to help. Well, it's okay. We might say it a little differently, but it's okay.
Beside him or them?
Beside them. It should be beside him, but in fact there was a chauffeur and a billionaire. There was actually two people.
Oh, okay.
So I'll keep it. The chauffeur and the motorist, spelled like this, changed the wheel together. After that, the billionaire, let's get the spelling right first. After that, the billionaire spoke to the man, the motorist, and asked, "Is there anything which I can do for you?" Guess what word we don't need? Which. Is there anything I can do for you? How would we say that as a reported sentence? Instead of quoting it directly, the man asked, let's get rid of the quotes and make it indirect speech.
Can I do anything for you?
Say the whole sentence. The billionaire...
If there is.
Say again, Daniel?
Was there anything?
If there was.
If there
was
anything I...
Could.
Anything, wait, it's not I now, it's he. Could do for him. So we've transformed it from direct to indirect. Is there becomes there was. So it goes to the past, and it becomes not a question, but it becomes a statement. Is there becomes there is, and the present is becomes was. So that's right, Dana. So the billionaire spoke to the man and asked if there was anything he could do for him. The motorist asked a bouquet, like this.
And direct form is correct, John?
Say again, Ishmael?
Is direct form correct?
The direct form was okay.
Yeah, okay.
But because we're telling a story, we should really use reported speech. Because it's not a story like fiction, where you want to hear people speak. We just want the information. So it's better to use indirect speech and to report it if we can. Because we're summarizing. The motor asked a bouquet. Oh, we're missing a word, everyone. The motor asked what? A bouquet.
Bouquet of flowers.
What's the word? Asked. What's the preposition I need here?
The bouquet.
For? Ask for?
Asked for is correct. The motor has asked for a bouquet of flowers for, we already said, his wife. Next day. Uh-oh. What's missing?
The next day.
Good. Next day. Some flowers were arrived. What's the problem here? Were arrived? Passive voice. Do we need the passive voice?
No.
What should it be?
Has arrived.
No.
Arrived.
Arrived. Just arrived. And we know that because the main events of the story are in the simple past. So, just arrived.
Can the flowers arrive to home with their self, John?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they can. The flowers have a little car, and they drive themselves to the home.
And maybe they have arm and leg.
They have little legs. In English,
Oh.
flowers have little legs, and they walk. It's true.
Really?
So, really? The next day, some flowers arrived. It means that we don't know how they arrived, but they did. It doesn't mean that they walked. It means that we don't know how it happened. It's not mentioned. But not were arrived, because you can't
Actually,
put arrive in the passive voice. Arrive is always active. Yeah?
I read the sentence on the original text, but my logic couldn't accept how
Right.
flower arrived with their self at home, and I changed.
But think about it like this, Ishmael. The flowers went to the home of the motorist. They went. We don't know how they went, right? So it's the same idea. It's just a substitute for the verb to go. They arrived. They went there. They came. We don't know how they came, but they did. So the information is just missing. It doesn't mean that they did the action. We don't know who did the action. But were arrived doesn't work here. Arrived is not really, it's not very easy to use the passive voice with arrived anyway. Arrived is always very active. Next day, some flowers arrived at the home of the motorist. Here's a better way to say that. At the motorist's home. Better to use this form.
At is correct.
It is
Here.
correct.
Okay.
At the motorist's home is much better because you use the possessive, motorist's home. We never say home of the motorist. We never use of the. Almost never. In fact, you should avoid it when you can. Almost never. So motorists is much more natural. And the mortgage was paid off by the billionaire is perfect. So the use of the verb tenses was perfect, but some of the word forms needed to be corrected. But all in all, I think it's a very good job because this is quite advanced stuff. So, very, very
Excuse me,
good.
John.
Yes,
What does mortgage mean?
mortgage. Someone help him out. Remember from yesterday class? What's a mortgage? Daniel said it was the
Bank
prison
credit
of the
A kind of loan from the bank.
kind of loan from the bank.
Loan
For a loan for what?
pay your home, your flat.
A mortgage from the bank, a loan, a house loan. It's a house loan.
Billionaire covered the mortgage of the motorist.
Yep. The billionaire was so happy that he paid off the guy's bank loan, probably for hundreds, tens or hundreds of thousands, who knows, a lot of money. A house costs thousands, maybe even $1 million, so it's quite a lot of money. Okay, so I wanted to do that as an example. I'll save this and I'll send it to you, Ishmael. Ishmael's composition. I'll send this to you in a minute or later, Ishmael, so you can have a copy to review. Let's start something new today. I want you to take what you've learned and I want you to apply it to a real-life situation, something that you might have to encounter if you're doing business. So the case study always begins with a little bit of background and an expert opinion. We're going to start with the expert opinion first. Shadow, do you know where those buildings are? Have you seen those before?
Yeah,
Where are they?
I saw in the movie, I think in Malaysia.
I think so too.
Okay.
I think so too. I think it's. I wish that Odie was here because he could tell us what they're called. I forgot the names. Those really tall towers, also featured in one of the James Bond movies. I can't remember which, but I know they were. Shadow, why don't you read the expert review from David Simmons, who's a lecturer at the Cranfield School of Management, and then we're going to use his advice to think about the problem that we're presented with. Can you read for us?
Yes, sure. The expert view, we have a natural tendency
Good.
to interpret the behavior and attitudes of individuals from different cultures according to our own preconceived ideas of cultural norms. But if we focus selectively only on actions or words that appear to fit these preformed views, this can lead to a serious misinterpretation of interactions. To understand other people's culture, frames of reference and value system, we need to be self-aware, and by watching and listening for all the signals, remain sensitive to the
Here it's nuances.
nuances.
Good.
Nuances of communication. If we are patient and respectful, make an effort to put ourselves in another person's shoes and to build trust, we can minimize the potential for misunderstanding.
Wow. A lot of big words here.
Mm-hmm.
What's the general idea? Let's do this as a group. A lot of big words, but what's he really saying? What's the main idea, do you think? All of you, class, what would you say? Give me some ideas. What's David Simmons trying to tell us? It's very interesting advice, actually. You want to explain it, Sylvia? Okay, I see you raising your hand. Okay, Sylvia.
Okay.
Tell us about it.
It was about the natural tendency. It's like when I'm reading.
Here's the trick, though. You can't use any of the words in the text to explain the text. So you can't use tendency. You have to use another word. Because otherwise, it's too easy to be stuck with some general idea and not really get to the point. So try to use simple, everyday words, though. What's the problem that he's identifying here? What's the issue?
The issue is that I think human beings sometimes they're afraid of difference.
They're afraid of differences, okay?
Yeah, and we have many cultures around the world, so sometimes they can't explain, they can't understand, I mean, these differences. But we try hard to understand it, and I think he's trying to find a solution.
He is trying to find a solution. In fact, he gives us one suggestion for a solution. So people, maybe it's human nature to be afraid of differences. Maybe it is. And that leads to a big problem. What's that word when you judge another culture or you assume their behavior is going to be one particular way?
Stereotype?
Stereotype, sure. So we tend to stereotype. I absolutely agree. It's about avoiding stereotypes. Jose, are you there?
Yes, yes.
Wow, you're so quiet. I was worried. Jose, what do you think? What do you think his solution is? It's not 100% clear, but he does give us a kind of suggestion.
The solution?
According to David Simmons, that is.
The solution could be...
Not could be. I want to know what it is, according to... Not what it could be, but what it is according to David Simmons. You have to read between the lines a little bit.
Yes.
Is there a particular line in the text where he offers a suggestion, Jose?
I am seeing the text.
Yeah, take a look again.
The text say that if they are patient and respectful, make an effort to put ourselves in another person's shoes and to build trust.
To build trust.
To build trust.
Okay, good. But that's what the text says. I want to know what you say. I want you to explain it in your own words. So look at this line here. To understand other people's cultural frames of reference and value systems, we need to be self-aware. I think that's the key to his suggestion. We need to be self-aware. And by watching and listening for all the signals, remain sensitive to the nuances of communication. That's a lot of big words. But I think that's where he makes the suggestion. So, I'm not going to pick on just Jose. I want to know from all of you.
Okay.
What do you think he means? I want you to interpret that line, because I think that's the key to his suggestion. We need to be self-aware, Watch and listen for the signals and remain sensitive to the nuances.
If you know the problem, you take the solution, no?
Okay. Let me say that in a different way. If you keep, when you say no, let's say keep in mind.
Yes, if you keep in mind the problem.
What's the problem here?
Here, the differences between different cultures.
Good. Let's say it like this then. If you keep in mind the differences in your culture from another, I think that's the first part of our conditional statement. If you keep in mind the differences in your culture from another culture, then what can happen? How would you finish that sentence? Not Jose, all of you. How would you finish that sentence? Nobody? Really? Nobody?
I mean, you mean, teacher, you mean we have to respect this and try to minimize these differences?
That could be a way to end the sentence. If you keep in mind the differences in your culture from another, you can or are able to minimize what?
The misunderstandings.
Sounds good to me. So let's put those two together in one place so you can see the whole sentence. So a good way to summarize is just to create a conditional sentence. And let me put that in the chat window for you. There we go. So just to sum up, if you keep in mind the differences in your culture from another, you are able to minimize the misunderstandings that might happen. I think that's a great way to summarize what he said. What was that, Ishmael? We feel safe in our culture and we don't want any other culture. It's a defense mechanism. So what is a defense mechanism exactly?
I mean, John, for example, I don't feel comfortable in a how can I say, in a different environment which I don't know anything about.
In a less familiar environment, maybe.
Less clear for me.
Right. So a natural defense mechanism might be to somehow, go against, we naturally tend to, what's the word I'm looking for here? Well, be negative about it. Go against it. Be negative. I don't know. I can't think of the word right now. It'll come to me. Anyway, I think that is a really good summary. We have to keep it in mind actively. We have to decide to keep those things in mind. So I think that is good. And if we're patient and respectful, we put ourselves in the other person's shoes. Okay. Well, we'll come back to that in a minute. Let's take a look at our issue for the cultural problem here. Let's go back here. So let's get another reader here. Diego, you've been kind of quiet. Would you like to read for us?
Yes.
Excellent. Take the first paragraph. Let's find out the background to a situation where we're going to investigate an intercultural problem. Take the title and the first paragraph, please, Diego.
PSR is
PCR.
PCR is a medium-sized company based in Germany. It produces software solutions for banks and has acquired a new client, a large, well-established established bank in Malaysia. Finally signed contracts well over a year ago.
A year
Very
ago?
little year ago. Very little progress appears to have been made. Employers working on the project
Wait.
PS
Employees working.
Employees working on the project at PSR are frustrated
Frustrated.
because everything is taking so long and cut over the transfer from the old system to the new system has been pros- pros- postponed for the
Postponed.
postponed for the fifth time.
Okay, stop for a moment. Cut over is not a normal word. So, is cut over is, let me ask you in your own words. How would you define or give an example of cut over? It says a transfer from the old system to a new system. So class, in your company or your experience, have you ever seen an example of cut over? I'll take that as a no. Where might you find cut over? Where do you think you would have a case of cut over, Daniel?
Maybe when a company use a kind of software.
Yeah, that's a good example.
And suddenly all computer change a new software or a new new company, new phone company or whatever.
Okay, I think it's a great example. When we have to, for example, update software, nothing will work right until it's updated. Maybe the hardware won't even work right. So cutover is transferring from one software to another, maybe one operating system to another. Everyone suddenly uses Linux, so we have to change all the computers. Okay, that's a good example. Well, Daniel, why don't you continue? Second paragraph.
There seems to be reluctance from the Malaysian bank to take on the new system. Constant changes are being made to suit the customer, something that PSR normally...
Wait, everyone keeps saying PS. There's no S. Look again.
PCR, sorry.
Good.
Something that PCR normally works on once the system is up and running, so users can input their problems. Training has taken place on an ad hoc basis and hasn't run very smoothly. It has often been decided on at the last minute, so PCR doesn't have much time to prepare. Communications has been unpredictable and difficult, and critical decisions haven't been made.
Telephone. Okay, very good. Sylvia, you're our expert on Latin, aren't you?
Yes, a little bit.
What is ad hoc?
It's prepared only for that.
Prepared only for that situation, ad hoc. Okay, so kind of like a spontaneous solution. They just came up with it at that moment. Let's say a quick hello to Mohammed, who's joining us right now. Hello, Mohammed. How are you? Hello, Mohammed. How are you? Uh-oh, I don't hear Mohammed. I just see a big dark space and no Mohammed. Well, Mohammed, you can say hello in the chat window and let me know if there's any problems, okay? Okay, so I want to just clarify ad hoc. So, in a nutshell, what's the conflict between the Malaysian bank and PCR? What's the problem here, in a nutshell, to summarize? Is there any problem?
It's hard to to understand the new system.
It's hard to know. It's the cutover is the problem.
Cutover.
Yeah, the cutover, the transfer to the new system is the problem. Okay.
The employees of the bank don't want the new system.
They don't even want it. Exactly. That makes things a little more difficult.
Maybe they don't want to learn a new system, and they're against a change.
Absolutely. Because it's not easy.
Yes.
They have to learn it, it takes effort, and it interferes with their job. So it's natural that people would not be so happy in that situation.
Human nature.
Human nature. Oh, good old human nature. There seems to be reluctance from the Malaysian bank to take on the new system. Constant changes are being made to suit the customer, something that PCR normally works on once the system is up and running. So PCR normally does things a little differently. It puts in the system before it makes changes. But here, they're being asked to make changes before the system is fully cut over from one system to the other. So that's a very uncomfortable situation for PCR. Frustrating time for PCR. Okay, we're going to be solving this problem because it's a cultural problem. Maybe culture plays a big part in the frustration that we're reading about. What problems might a company face when changing to a new IT software system? Let's start with that. You want to answer, Shadow? Okay. Good, Shadow.
Okay, I think it's gonna, it will cost more money.
Could, but it could also save money. Maybe the new system would somehow be better or more efficient. So it might cost, it could cost more money, you're right, it could.
Okay, how about they have to to train them for that.
Exactly, yes, that's the problem. They have to learn it. It's difficult and it's expensive. They have to be trained. That's one big problem, absolutely. Have you ever switched from one computer system to another or one program to another and been frustrated? So, so I think we all have this problem. If something updates and we have to change everything we're doing and make copies, it's a big pain. Okay. Any other problems the company might face in this situation, class? What about that's about adapting to
communication maybe is important.
Okay, sure.
Maybe,
in what way?
Maybe a bank manager want this new system, but the employees have no idea about the new system, and PCR didn't give any briefing to employees about the new system, and they're unsure.
So they have to do their jobs, but while they're making this transition, right, they're not really ready to use the new system yet. So that's where Shadow's training comes in as well. Absolutely. So, and one more idea. What about the actual computers themselves? We talked about the people and the software, but what about the hardware? What about the hardware? Have you ever gotten kicked out of a Google Hangout when things update? I know I have.
Google Hangout is a pain for me.
Exactly, for everyone.
Yes.
So the problem is the software updates and the hardware can't handle it, or the software updates and then there have to be a whole bunch of second and third updates before it runs smoothly. So the hardware could be a problem. Okay, what about the second question? What could be the reasons for the difficulties that PCR is experiencing with its Malaysian client? So this is not about the system anymore. This is about what our expert was talking about, that different cultures might handle things differently. Okay? So let's talk about this for a minute. PCR and its Malaysian client, they're from different cultures. So what kind of difficulties might they face with this problem being from different cultures? Like, what's the obvious problem? The most obvious problem when two people are from different cultures. Really?
The language is
Of course.
Language.
Yes. The first problem is the language. They don't speak the same language, so that's already going to create a problem.
yes, and tradition, ethics, and beliefs.
That's another good point. Earlier, I don't remember exactly where it was, we talked about different problems with people in Korea and people in Poland, and if you think back to that part of the unit, what was the real problem? For those of you who are in that class, or those two classes, the situation in Poland and Korea, what was the real problem when the person had to do a task? What was stopping them from doing their tasks in both countries? Do you remember? It has to do with our cultural beliefs. Think back to that listening we did. One person was talking about assigning this Polish girl in the company a survey, and another person was describing how he was managing a team in Korea and nothing was getting done. Do you remember the real problem in both cases? So Daniel, I think you were here. Jose, you were here as well.
Mm-hmm.
Is everyone really tired today? You had a difficult carnival?
Remember.
Ah, you can't remember. Okay. You can also use common sense, though. What kind of how do people work differently in different cultures? That's really what it came down to. Or how are organizations designed differently in different cultures? Because that will get to the heart of the problem, I think.
Yes, it's different. Okay, I wasn't in that class, but I know, for example, that in Japan, if the director stay in the office until late,
Right.
also all the other people stay in the office, even if they haven't to do nothing.
Exactly. So we call that seniority. Seniority is an issue. Whatever the senior does, you have to do. And what about in your culture, Sylvia? I know that you're a student, but if you're in a company, or even if it's a professor, are you allowed to question what a professor and what a boss tells you?
No, we have to do. Also, a weird thing that we did in the high school was that when the teacher came into the class, we have to stand up.
Really?
Yes.
And salute?
No, and say it was the
Hail
things that
teacher.
we. No.
Teacher.
No. We have to stay really quiet and don't say nothing. We have only to stand up, and then when he sit down in his chair, we can sit down as well.
Everyone stand up right now. Stand up. Teachers in the room. Everyone stand up and be quiet. The problem is you're already being quiet. I want you to stop being quiet. Let's take a look. Absolutely. So would that happen in an American classroom, do you think?
No.
Absolutely not. The teacher comes in and they'll throw a book at the teacher. That's what happens in an American classroom. They've got metal detectors at the door to keep your guns outside. It's a very different situation. So seniority was one issue. You can't question the orders you're given. You've got to stay late if the boss stays late in some cultures. Absolutely. So PCR, what country is PCR from? See it?
Germany.
PCR is German,
Yes.
and the bank is Malaysian. So what cultural differences in the way they work or communicate are we going to be facing? What will the Germans expect that the Malaysians may do or may not do? What will the Malaysians expect that the Germans may do or may not do? So
German is West culture and Malaysian is East culture. There are many differences between the two cultures.
What do you think would be an important difference in this particular case? So besides language, of course. When I think about German culture, I think about, well, one thing I think about is punctuality.
Yes.
If I have a German student, the German student is in the class 10 minutes before it begins, even if I'm not there, because I can't always be there 10 minutes early. And they want to start 10 minutes early. If I have an Italian, a Spanish, a Portuguese,
half hour after.
Half an hour after.
No.
Exactly. So the way you do
business in Malaysia.
I don't know.
Yeah, 1 hour after.
I think so. I have a feeling too. They're going to be much more relaxed about time. So that's another issue. And what else? I don't know. I think that's a good enough start. So that's our background. Here's what we're going to do. Let me move forward. I'm going to show you what we're going to do and then ask your opinion. So you have to solve this problem as a group. You each have some further information about PCR's situation. What you're going to do is read. We can't do it now. We're out of time. But you're going to read your information and think of some reasons why the problem occurred. You're going to report your information to your colleagues, and as a group, we're going to try to solve the problem, discussing culture and talking about some experiences we've had, why our solution might be a good idea, or why we might disagree with someone else. So we're going to narrate a past event as well. Not in a big way, but just enough to get your point across. Here's my question for all of you. If normally the class is Monday to Thursday. Shall I have an extra class to do this tomorrow, or shall we wait until Monday? What do you prefer?
I prefer tomorrow, John.
One vote for tomorrow. If it's only one, I can't do it. Will anyone else be here tomorrow? Because tomorrow is normally the Hot Topics class where we pick an interesting topic happening around the world.
I will be there in any case.
Okay, well that's two. What about the rest of you? We prefer tomorrow, or do we wait and I'll give you the weekend? What do you prefer?
I can't at the weekend.
You can't. Not the weekend, I'm saying, but tomorrow.
Oh. No
So
problem.
what do you prefer, Friday or Monday?
Monday.
Monday.
Monday, yes.
All right. Let's do this. I'll give you something to work on for the weekend. Okay? We'll pick it up on Friday as the last class, on Monday as the last class, but I'll give you something to work on the weekend. If you haven't done homework 3 from yesterday, do it over the weekend too, because it's great practice with the narrative tenses. We'll have a problem-solving meeting on Monday. You're going to use those key expressions to talk about the past and those verb tenses to narrate a past event in addition to solving the problem. Okay? And I'll send that to you a little later today. I'll be back tomorrow at 10 GMT, 9 GMT for Hot Topics. I want to talk about global divestment tomorrow. It's a big issue right now. Divestment.
What does divestment mean, John?
Divestment is the opposite of investment. So this week had Global Divestment Day, the day when
money leaving?
Say again?
Money leaving?
Money leaving instead of money being put in, exactly. And where is the money leaving? It's leaving the oil industry. So I want to talk about Global Divestment Day tomorrow in Hot Topics, and I want to give you a chance to convince someone to divest or decide that divesting is a bad idea. So we're going to have a little activity as well. That'll be tomorrow from 10 to 11 GMT, London time. Bye for now. Have a great weekend,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Bye for
Bye.
now. See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Eric. Bye.